Well, hello there. Welcome to my video message to the atheist movement worldwide. We are here to debunk you. Have you ever wondered why the earth does not suffer from severe hurricanes and wind blasts that would blow mankind right off this planet? Speeding along at 67,000 miles per hour and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour would certainly test your fortitude to stay on the orbital Earth vehicle, which it is not. It is not moving. It's been that way from the beginning. It's written that way in the Holy Word of God, and for some reason it was withheld from the students as heliocentrism was taught in the classrooms of the schools of most of the world.
Did you ever wonder? No, well, me neither. I guess it's probably got something to do with gravity or something like that. I guess the guy I launched this lecture with is one of the last surviving people to fully believe in the geocentric model. And not only that, but to try and maintain that it's an essential part of biblical teaching that it is so. I launch with the notion of heliocentricity and geocentricity because it's a way of exploring fundamental changes in science, the shift from one model to the other. But before I look at the nature of scientific revolutions, we need to talk about what a revolution is in the first place. Revolutions take many different forms. Often we think of political revolutions, the toppling of old orders. In this instance, we see the execution of Charles I taking place in 1649, or the American Revolution, where the British were turfed out of the American colonies and a new system of republican government was instituted. More dramatic still, the French Revolution from 1789 that saw the principles of liberty and equality instituted, establishing representative and democratic government with political participation for all. A revolution that not only saw the monarchy wiped out on the guillotine, the grisly tool of execution, that also wiped out large tranches of the aristocracy and then consumed many of its followers in the terror. The Bolshevik Revolution of October 1917 that not only wiped out another monarchy but also sought to institute a Marxist form of government and economy, in the process attempting to overthrow the capitalist system. Or similarly, the Communist Revolution in China. Religious revolutions like the ones started by Martin Luther, which resulted in the Reformation and the establishment of Protestantism through many parts of Europe, challenging the power and authority of the Catholic Church. We can think too of internal political revolutions like the struggle to gain equal political rights for women and African Americans. Revolutions won at the cost of broken lives and assassinations.
One of the first things that the independent African nations did was to form an organization called the Organization of African Unity. The purpose of our organization of Afro-American Unity, which has the same aim and objective, to fight whoever gets in our way. To bring about the complete independence of people of African descent here in the Western Hemisphere, and first here in the United States, and bring about the freedom of these people by any means necessary.
We might think of colonial struggles that sought to free powers like India from the yoke of British imperialism. We might even think of the student revolts in Paris that attempted to topple the conservative Gaullist government. Revolutions need not just be political. The revolution of women's liberation that sought to gain equality not just in terms of politics, but right across the board, in the household, in the workplace, and has wrought some of the largest changes in society in the last 50 years. And gay rights that sought to overturn repressive legislation and pathologization. Here we see the Stonewall riots that did so much to kick off the gay liberation movement. And then there were the revolutions in music.
Now here's what I want you all to do for me. Bang! Caught you looking for the same thing. It's a new thing. Check out this I bring. The roll below the level.
And fashion.
Come on! Turn up the radio. They're claiming I'm a criminal. But now...
Or some of the most profound revolutions of all. For example, the Neolithic Revolution, where farming allowed the population to grow exponentially. Even the British Agricultural Revolution that brought new technology to allow for an increase in agricultural production. And equally profound, the Industrial Revolution that instituted the factory system of production, the era of mass production, a shift that saw the majority of population in places like Britain moving from the countryside to the towns. From the perspective of this lecture, we can also think of scientific revolutions. Revolutions in chemistry and in physics that rewrote our understanding of the universe. What these revolutions have in common, whether they're social, political, economic or religious, is that they rewrite the rule book, turning the world upside down, creating a new way of doing things or a new way of thinking. In fact, it could be said that Darwin's theories were responsible for a whole set of different revolutions, political, social, cultural. And in the weeks that follow, this is a question that I'll be pursuing. But the question that I now want to consider is whether Darwinism was a scientific revolution. And to do that, I think that we should have a look at an archetypal scientific revolution. Every time you say something like, did you see the sunrise or did you see the sunset? You're referring back to the pre-Copernican period, the era when people thought that the Earth was at the centre of the universe and that the sun and the planets and the stars revolved around the Earth. This was essentially the Aristotelian universe, described in the works of Aristotle some 400 years before the birth of Christ. A view that was reinforced by the work of Ptolemy, the Greco-Roman philosopher, astronomer and astrologer. Ptolemy's geocentrism would last for the best part of 1500 years, but maintaining geocentrism proved extremely hard work. The closer the people observed the heavens, the more they noticed the planets moving in strange retrograde ways, moving backwards and forwards through the sky in an almost erratic manner. Heliocentrism deals with retrograde motion in a very effective way, but geocentrism did not. Instead, it had to imagine each planet moving in these pericycles, seemingly orbiting around an unseen or non-existent body. Their paths etched out as if by a celestial spirograph. The more the heavens were observed, the more complicated the patterns became, until one day someone had a new idea that made it appear oh so simple. For many years, Copernicus had been thinking maybe it was the case that the Earth moved around the Sun. He developed his ideas until he had an effective working model. But for many years he was unwilling to publish his ideas, although he told many of his friends about what he was working upon. Finally, in the year of his death, he published his revolutionary book De Revolutionibus Orbium Celestium, on the revolutions of the heavenly spheres, where he mapped out Earth's new place in the cosmos, third planet from the sun, in no way, shape or form the centre of the universe. Of course, he didn't get it all right first time. You'll notice that in his model, the planets move in a circular motion. It would take many men to perfect the model, particularly astronomers like Johannes Kepler and Galileo Galilei. Copernicus's new theory of heliocentrism has to be one of the most profound of scientific discoveries. The laws of the universe were utterly changed, requiring a huge transformation in the way that we as human beings understood our place in nature, in the world, in the universe. But from the scientific perspective, the most important thing is that it enforced a new way of exploring the universe, a new way that emphasized empiricism over book learning, over library thinking. Prior to this era, what we had seen is all knowledge being transmitted to students through the reading and then learning by rote of texts. Now, with the kind of work being done by men like Copernicus, the most important thing was to go out and observe and to collect data, and not to have your viewpoint rigidly enforced by doctrinal or dogmatic thinking. In every sense of the word, the Copernican revolution was profound. The question that we have to answer is, was the Darwinian revolution equally as profound? Was it profound in all of those different areas of science, politics, culture? Was it profound in the area of science? Was it really a scientific revolution? And to do that, to answer that question, what we need to do is to first explore some ideas that emerge out of social studies of science and the philosophy of science, but then to have a look at how people thought about creation and species prior to Darwin's great book. And then we might be in a position to answer the question of whether, in scientific terms, Darwin's ideas of evolution through natural selection constituted a scientific revolution.